The TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.
Hello, Cherries fans, and welcome to this latest show on Up the Cherries in all departments. Now, you might be thinking, why another Semenyo video? Well, I love the man. As you probably know, I will sing his praises until the early hours. The man is an absolute legend, in my opinion. However, we're going to have a bit of an alternative opinion and actually talk about conversion rates today, and why Semenyo might not be, the player who is worth 70 million. We'll find out a little bit more. Now, a big thank you to our two sponsors. Firstly, Touchpoint Telecoms, touchpointtelecoms.co.uk. Do get in contact with Mark and the team for all your business telecoms needs. And also, our main sponsors, Dental on the Banks, dentalonthebanks.co.uk. And here's a bit about them now.
I should be like you, Mel.
So, as I say, Semenyo is a favourite of mine. He's a favourite with many fans. However, we do have a long-term subscriber join us today to discuss his views on Semenyo. So, it is a pleasure to welcome onto Up the Cherries in all departments for his debut, Sean. Welcome to the show, Sean. How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Managed to get out of bed, so it's a good start of the day.
Excellent stuff. And thank you so much for joining me. And of course, a long-term subscriber to the channel. And it's great that we're getting so many more fans involved. And I do apologise. I have called you Sion, I've called you Sean, I've called you everything under the sun. I'm terrible with names, but you want to be called Sean from now on, so.
Yeah.
No problem at all, Sean. So, of course, everybody knows my thoughts about Antoine Semenyo. I absolutely love the guy. He is an integral part of this football club, and his power going forwards, how he cuts in the inside. You've probably seen it all already, but you have got a little bit of a different opinion of Antoine Semenyo and what he actually brings to the side. And also, you was discussing his conversion rates the other day. Can you give us a little bit more context?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big Dango fan.
Yes.
And I've gone through a few of the numbers. It's very hard because I believe that Dango is actually worth more than Semenyo. The reason I go that is when you look through the stats. So, for example, if I keep looking away, it's because I've got a piece of paper here. And
That's fine, no problem.
So minutes for Semenyo is 3,209, Dango 2,006. So straight away with the stats, you've got to divide it by take a third off, really, because it's a third less minutes. But you've also got to work out, and one of the reasons why he's better straight away is because Dango has also done left back. Dango has done left back, left wing, right wing, and striker. And he was successful as being a striker up front. Whereas
Yeah.
Semenyo straight away, so this is one of the things, Semenyo's striker up front, every time he's done that, I'm pretty sure all fans pretty much have said he's been unsuccessful as striker up front. He's never been left back, so that's straight away with where they can play. Dango wins on that. Dango's also 2 years younger, so age-wise, he wins on that. But then, I say goals, Semenyo's got 11, Dango's got 7. Take third off, about the same. Assists, 5-4, pretty much the same. Expected goals, third, fourth, the same. Interception, 11-11. Total in box, 211 to 140. So you take a third off, but you got to remember Dango's also been left back, so those stats are a little bit skewed. Obviously, Semenyo does win on certain things. So successful dribbles, for example, 69 to 32. So he's better at that. But where is it? There's a few things. Obviously, if you're a winger, you need to have certain skills that works out better. So through balls is quite an important one. Where Semenyo's got 9, Dango's got 5. Christie is actually in second place with 8. And what was it? But when you look at successful crossing, which in their position is very important, Semenyo's got 13.6% successful crossing. Dango's got 19.3%, and that's with him playing left back as well. So if Semenyo was able to finish the chances, these stats would mean nothing anyway. If he became a 20, if he scored 20, and that's one of the big things as well. Total shots. Dango's done 81 total shots. Whereas, Semenyo's done total of 81 shots. Dango done 48. So there's quite a big difference there. But Ever was next nearest was 57. So at the same time, I could go on the pitch. I could have 1,000 shots. But that would show that I'm pretty poor at the shots. And that's where, even though he's got total shots and they go, he has loads of shots, I don't see that as a good thing if you can't convert them. And when you've had, let's say, 81 compared to 57 of Ever, that does not seem so good. I say, if he could convert them, stats mean nothing. And I remember with like Christie, for example, he has been told that he could be a £70 million player. The thing that stops him is he doesn't convert his chances. When Solanke was here, everyone said he had brilliant work rate and all that kind of stuff. And I was similar thing. I wasn't so much for Solanke, but I knew that if he was more upfront, took his chances, he could become that big player. And that's what happened. He started moving up front with Andoni's system and that, and he was taking his chances, and he became that big player. And that's what Semenyo is missing to become that big player. Whereas the stats-wise, I think Dango is slightly edging him on most of the stats. Certainly the important stats on there. So that's, to me, that's why I think Dango edges it. But Semenyo could easily do what's needed, and I hope he does convert those shots into goals and become that £70 million player, like Solanke done, like we say Christie could. But when I hear the numbers at the moment, I'm so confused how I've had like basically no offers or anything for Dango, yet lots for Semenyo. It's confusing.
Would you say then, and you know, this is me playing devil's advocate because, of course, I'm a massive Semenyo fan. Would you say Semenyo is not worth the £70 million that was being bounded around?
Oh no, he's not. I mean, you got to think also the 70 million other thing. There's only a year extra. They both had long. They've got long contracts, so you can't say that you can affect the contract thing with the price, because there's Semenyo at the time when he's being told 70 million only had a year extra on his contract compared to Dango. So again, it's not there. So yeah.
The comparison you've made there, Sean, as well, is quite interesting, because I've said about Dango Ouattara, and I really do respect Dango Ouattara, because one thing that I've always said is that he will do 9 things and you think, what's he actually trying to do? And then he'll do one thing that is absolutely unbelievable, which I completely agree with you that I think Semenyo couldn't actually do. Something that is completely out of the ordinary, you know, or, against Forest, I know he had an absolutely fantastic game. That was, one of the best individual performances by a Bournemouth player for some time, in my honest opinion. But, you know, Dango Ouattara, like you say, has played in numerous different positions. Whereas with Semenyo, if you remember against Nottingham Forest up at the City ground, he was up front on his own because Solanke had just been sold. Evan Nielsen hadn't come in at that point. Or I think he might have just come in, but, wasn't
Yeah.
ready to make his first start. But it didn't really work. It didn't really connect. And
No.
do you think that maybe, with Dango, he is a big guy. He's got a massive jump on him. He's got a massive leap, like we saw in that Forest game. Do you think that maybe Dango is a little bit more agile as a player?
Yeah, I think Dango's more of a. Obviously, every player's a team player, but I think,
Yeah.
like when Dango was up front, he brought in players and still got some goals, and as like lots of other people
Mhm.
started scoring there. So
Yeah.
Dango's much more of a team player. You can see in the stats, the general stats, that like the crossing and stuff like that, he's more of a team player. Whereas
Mhm.
Semenyo's more, the fact that he has so many shots shows, I don't want to say he's selfish, because he's obviously not,
Mhm.
but at the same time, because he has a shot, shows that he obviously wants to go in and get the
Mhm.
shot and score himself. Dango's not so much like that, which again to me means Dango's more of a, if you can't convert the shots, Dango's more of a player.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, always forget my trail of thoughts, but
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it's an interesting one. It's an interesting one. I'm not surprised that Semenyo is right up there with the dribbles and the actual you know bringing the ball forwards, because he is so strong. He's so skillful. He will cut on the inside. And do you think that maybe with regards to these stats as well, and again, this is me kind of pushing back in defense of Semenyo, as you expect me to do you think that it might be that Semenyo's shots are also a little bit more ambitious? So from different areas, it doesn't seem like he will just get in front of goal and take a shot, which, Dango, you could say, against Spurs a couple of years back, very much quite an easy goal to score. Against Forest, a lot of them were goals where, there was quite a window of opportunity. He'd got himself into a really good position. Or do you think maybe that's Semenyo's failing, that he doesn't get himself into that good position when others have got the ball?
I think that he gets himself, when I see him taking shots now, they're usually on the edge of the box
Hmm.
kind of thing and that. And I think has had a reputation of that kind of just
Yeah.
going, cutting and going outside the box and then taking a
Hmm.
shot on that. But then he's determined to do it.
Yeah.
And whether, I don't know, whether he doesn't have the skill to do it, or he shows glimpses. I mean, one thing I've noticed, another channel, I'm not going to say which one, 'cause I don't know if I can all
No,
that.
that's all
Um,
right.
they keep saying about Semenyo, it can't be dropped because
Mm,
he could play rubbish all game and then you do one moment of brilliance and score a goal.
mm,
For a £70 million player, I saw that, but that's the thing. That's the difference with Solanke. He was consistently. But yeah, Semenyo, he has this moment of brilliance. There is that £70 million player there. I'm not saying if he becomes a £70 million player next season, that really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
But he's got to do that. I mean, one of the things as well is that I noticed at the end part of the season, I went to watch was it game and that, but I was watching Semenyo and I was crying for him to take on his players. At the beginning of the season, he was taking on his players, he was getting around them, getting shots and all this kind of stuff. And to me, the second half of the season, he seemed to drop back. He wasn't taking on his players so much. Whereas Dango was doing the opposite at the beginning of the season. Or actually, rephrase that. Dango at the beginning of the season was doing what you were saying. He was taking on his players. It looked brilliant and all that, but he was quite often losing them. And when he did get past them, the crossing was behind the goal or stuff like that. But in the second half of the season, I heard on the commentary and stuff like that so many times about Dango's deadly crossing.
Yeah.
And that was only in the second half of the season. He seemed to just suddenly click where he was taking on the players, getting past them, and then doing these brilliant deadly crossing so often in the second half of the season. Obviously down to brilliant training and that.
Yeah.
And where Semenyo, to me, done the opposite way round. He seemed to not want to take on his man so much. Maybe it's because where Dango had the left back position a bit, he also started to learn a bit about not leaving it so vulnerable at the back if he loses it, stuff like that. Now the catch the Semenyo didn't, but yeah, they seem to go opposite ways to me. I don't know if it's just me on that, but yeah, I just remember I don't know if it was Liverpool, it was a game, and I was just shouting at Semenyo. I think he took on his player once, and I was like, please, take on, you can do it. That's how I know he's worth that. He can be worth that, but he's just, it's the consistency as well is so important in both of them, to be fair. And I think next season, Semenyo, for consistency, he needs to keep what he's doing. He just needs to finish his chances. And Dango needs to do more of what he was doing the second half of the season, keep it going, just maybe a bit more aggression with it, because he's shown he can do it now, and hopefully his confidence will do it as well. And maybe though he'll get a start, because obviously Dango comes on his second half quite often, stuff like that. And I know a lot of people would say, oh, he gets an easier time because the players are tired, so he can take them on and all that kind of stuff. But I could also flip it and say, ask any player, and I bet for anything, they will say they want to start the game to get confidence. So you could flip it that way as well. So
Yeah, I can see exactly where you're coming from. And do you know what's quite funny, actually, with what you said about, let's call them the alternative source. Everybody's got opinions, and that's absolutely fine. But where they're saying Semenyo is undroppable because of that one moment of brilliance, the alternative source has also turned around and said in the past, with regards to Dango Ouattara, that they don't want to see him in the side. They don't want to see him playing from the start. And he is a player that will do, or used to do, that moment of brilliance where he would pull something out of the bag. You wouldn't be expecting it. He might be a man who, Dango Ouattara is, for me, a player that isn't lazy at all. He's a hard working player. But what he is he's a player that I think bears on opportunity. When something presents itself, when something, opens up, Dango Ouattara used to take it. He used to surprise people with what he used to do. So he probably is more that player that you could say, back then, he would pull out this moment brilliance. But then again, he has been very, very good recently. And like you say, with regards to Antoine Semenyo, I think when he come from Bristol City, I don't know if you've ever seen it, Sean, but I spoke to Mark McAdam, and I said I don't really think that this is a great signing for AFC Bournemouth. The main reason being is I watched him at Bristol City, and he blew hot and cold. He was so inconsistent. That consistency has definitely come on leaps and bounds, and that's why I think it's good that he stayed at AFC Bournemouth, because under Andoni Iraola, he's become a better player. But I do actually see your point with regards to, how it's dipped off in the second half of the season. Do you think, though, maybe, and this is something I've gone on about a little few times, do you think that he might have been nursing an injury or showed a bit more fatigue than other players in the squad?
Um, I don't know if he's got any injury. I haven't heard anything. I mean, both of them, I looked at the injury stats. Didn't write them down or anything like that. And they
Sorry.
weren't miles off. I think Dango was tinchy bit worse, but they were very similar. They were minor things throughout most of their stuff. So I'll be very surprised. I don't know why. He just seems to have gone inside himself. I don't want to say it, but at the same time, certain players, when they get big money offers, I'm not going to say certain players and that,
Yeah.
they start dropping off a bit because they're worried about getting injuries and all that kind of stuff. And it's not that his heart's still not in it, but I can see that kind of thing where maybe he's in the back of his head, he's thinking, oh, I'm getting these big offers or big clubs or stuff like that.
Yeah.
And maybe he's realised he's starting to drop a little bit, so that's why he's decided to get into the new contract and go into it. Or maybe that new contract has got, he said it's going to have a buyout clause, and he's got that there, and that's why he's done that. It's a funny point. I've just got to say, play in my head goes all sorts of random things. But with Dango, when he was starting, and that, I would argue that he was actually probably the best he was doing when he was starting. And at that time, especially when I say when he was striker and that, we had no players. We had the youth on the bench, and before Andoni might appear on the bench. But so yeah, I'm saying about dropping off with Semenyo now because of possible injury or different things like that. I could easily say that Dango, when we was going through our worst period of injuries and all that kind of stuff, and he's pushing his body and all that, he had his best part of the season, I would argue. So, yeah, I haven't heard any injury or anything with Semenyo. So, yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, really. And hopefully he'll start the season like he started last season, rather, and start finishing the chances as well.
I can't argue with the facts and the stats. They are, official. There's stuff that has actually happened, which does hint towards Dango and his performances. But for Semenyo to become this £70 million player that everybody said he was, and I said he was, and I've sang his praises left, right, and centre. He's a player I absolutely love. And I think he does work so hard. He's got, his strength, he's got agility, he does score some decent goals as well, some interesting goals, and some very, very important goals as well. To become that £17 million player, what actually does he need to do? Is it more that, just needs to take more chances when he has them? That conversion rate has to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I use Solanke as the easy option because they're very similar, that they both was committed, they done massive effort, they used to rough around players and manage to push them out the way and do all that kind of stuff. But the reason why Solanke didn't wasn't that £17 million player purely was that he wasn't getting the goals. That otherwise they're very this is what I'm saying. One season could completely do it for Semenyo if he can do I'll say do a Solanke.
Yes,
It's the best way to describe him, because everything was there for Solanke, and everything I say, you see the stats. Yeah, the between Dango and Semenyo might not be massively different, but there are some that stand out, like the dribbles, for example. That's
Yeah.
quite an important one. And yeah, if he could just finish those chances, maybe he needs to learn to take an extra step, get closer into the box, or maybe just shoot in practice. If he can just do a slanky, the best way to describe it, then that's all he's missing. It is so close, and I think he has a higher ceiling than Dango has. But to me, at the moment, stats wise, Dango has the edge over Semenyo.
Yeah.
But I say those stats mean nothing if Semenyo scores 20 next season.
Well,
So-
that is the big thing, and I remember, and casting my mind back to that COVID period, of course, the season we was relegated, there was a lot of talk when I was part of the back and net team, and I, along with many other familiar faces on there, used to turn around and say, I don't think Solanke is that striker that will score 20 goals a season. Lo and behold, he's far past that. So I think that Semenyo, if he wants to embrace that and get that opportunity at a bigger club, and I'd love to see him stay here forever. Honestly, I'd love to see him stay here forever. I hope that he can do this for AFC Bournemouth year on year on year on year on year instead of going to a bigger club. But the lower and hold of it is that if Spurs do have a very good season next year and Thomas Frank does come back in for him, which was the rumor, that I don't know how much there is behind it, but if he does come back in for Antoine Semenyo, then I think that consistency does need to improve if that's what Semenyo wants overall. And again, like Solanke did, he just needs to find that momentum and find his feet of doing that, doesn't he?
yeah, I mean, at the start of the season, I'm actually hoping that we have Dango and might be surprised, but I want Semenyo. Yeah, Brooks has done well second half season. He started to get that consistency in that, but Semenyo still has that extra power, that extra edge over Brooks and that. And quite frankly, if I was the opposition team, if I saw Dango on one side, Semenyo on the other side, I would be scared out of my mind because you need to double team on them. I mean, you see Dango goes through 2-3 players and he's still getting that consistency.
Yeah.
Semenyo can push him out the way and he's starting to get that consistency of when that. So you got 2-3 players trying to mark each side. Suddenly there's no midfield. And then if we've got Alex or stuff like that and Christie and more space, maybe he'll get into the goals more. Yeah, I say I am pro for Semenyo, and I'm desperate for him to get those chances and take them, as I know he can do, because that will be a brilliant each wing.
Yeah.
But obviously, I'm not the manager, so we'll see what Antony does. But yeah, that's what I'm praying for the start of the season, seeing the two of them on each wing hit the ground running and scaring the hell out of other teams.
Well, Sean, I hope you're right. Let's be honest, Semenyo, he is a bit of a battering ram. He's strong. Like I say, the agility's there. He's fast. Whereas Dango maybe might not have the physical presence, but again, he's fast. He's skillful. He can get round players using his feet, and he will do that one surprise thing, which I think maybe he's got in his locker more than Antoine does. He'll just pull, a rabbit out of the hat, and it'll be like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah, they both got magic in them and that, and
Yeah.
they both got different kind of skills. As you said, Semenyo is more on the physical side. I think Dango is more on the skillful side. But yeah, they're both brilliant players, and I think next season for both of them, it's going to be a big season.
Definitely, definitely. Whilst I've got you here, Sean, we'll just quickly touch on, of course, the incomings and outgoings at AFC Bournemouth. Of course, our back line. Dean Howson's gone. Milos Kerkez is gone. Zabania is wanted by PSG, but we seem to be standing firm. If it's just those two that go, though, this has been quite a successful transfer window. Would you agree?
Yes and no. I mean, yes, because obviously we ain't lost all the players that are big stars, but no, because we've lost three of the back line, Kepa, Dino, Kerkez,
Yeah.
and obviously Smith, though he seems to live to 100 and still keep going, there's got to be a point with him. So if you said that Smith is starting to go this season as well, that leaves Zabs, and that's presuming he stays. So but I think that's always going to be the way. The thankful thing is that we're not in Europe. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm sure, same as every Bournemouth fan, would love to be in Europe and gone to wherever. Excellent excuse to get out of the house. But, yeah, without Europe, that means we've got less games. And with the development squad doing so well, and that with cups and that, we can get them more involved. So we do have it, but it's just a case of if we do the Bournemouth way and have injuries, especially in the back line, we are going to be in serious trouble if we don't get some signings in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's good that we've still got some, but at the same time, we've lost some, and we need those players in if we want to definitely have a good season at least.
Oh, Sean, I was really, really disappointed we didn't get Europe because at the end of the day, I wanted to do a Simon Wilson, go to Sheriff Tiraspol, I think that's their name, Sheriff, in Transnistria, of all places. Where is it? I don't really know. I think it's part of Moldova, but could I point to it on a map? No. But I was wanting to do maybe a Simon Wilson where he goes to all these obscure football stadiums. So, yeah, I won't be able to do that next season. But, I think, to be honest, from my perspective, yes, the goalkeeping department, like you say, I forgot there about Kepa, and Kepa is a loss. But does this give Mark Travers his chance, or do you think Andoni is going to bring somebody else in? Maybe, and there has been rumours of this, Rambo back.
I would say players. I am a Travis fan. I've been wanting him to start for God knows how long, and I remember when Neto come in and Travis was dropped again. I felt so sorry for him, and that no matter what he does, he always plays consistently, and I think he should be the number one goalkeeper. He should be there.
100%.
But do I think he will actually be number one? I'll be surprised because Andoni's never shown consistency that he wants him to be number one or even number two in that. I mean, we had Will Dennis. I know there may be Travis pushed that he wanted to play time, and this is part of the reason why I don't think he'll still be here, despite what I want in that. But yeah, Andoni's not shown that he has faith in him. So as hard as it is, hopefully Travis will get his chance somewhere else. But yeah, I don't think it'll be here as much as I think he is Premier League level. Whenever he's played in the Premier League and that, he's done well. He's not like he's collapsed or anything like that. The goals he conceded are very rarely to do with him. But the thing is, even if in the goalkeeping department, even if we do use him as number one, we still need to sign another goalkeeper. And I think Travis knows that. And because we'd be signing another goalkeeper, he'd be worried. that he's not going to get that number one shirt. He's too far into his career. He needs that number one shirt. So, yeah, I think he would like, I can't risk it anymore. I've just got to go to another club that'll play me.
He's in a very, very difficult position because at the end of the day, you look at Mark Travers, he was fantastic against Manchester City a few years back. Actually, I think it was the season we was relegated. He had an absolutely fantastic game against Tottenham Hotspur where, we was really under the cosh and, he kept it pretty much everything out. Mark Travers is Premier League quality, but I think it's playing out from the back. And he's in a weird situation where we do need another goalkeeper now. Will Dennis, I don't think he's ready. Of course, we've got Cameron playing as well. I think maybe, he could be on the outskirts, but again, could Will Dennis really be the understudy in the top flight? I'm not so sure.
I mean,
So we're going to.
Will Dennis hasn't even played in Championship League One or League Two, has he? He's only played in the Scottish Premier.
He
I think.
has, yeah, I believe it is. I believe Will Dennis is. So that's the big thing is we are going to have to sign another goalkeeper. I don't think Neto is going to stay much longer anyway. But the thing is, we're going to have to sign a new goalkeeper, but we're not going to go for a goalkeeper that is just going to play backup. We're not in that position where we're going to sign another Randolph and go right. Okay, you're quite happy to play second fiddle to our number one. We are going to look, and Andoni's way and method of thinking is let's improve a position rather than sitting on our laurels. And so yeah, I can't see it sadly working for Mark, even though I really, really, really want it to.
Yeah, I think pretty much all Bournemouth fans want Travis to be our number one, or at least get a good opportunity, and that.
Yeah.
But I can't see it happening because there's been no sign of it in the past.
No, definitely. Well, of course, the defence needs some shoring up. There's loads of rumours going on about that. Final question, Sean, and a controversial one. Callum Wilson, would you take him back for a
On
season?
a free, yeah. Obviously, with the old PSR things, it's hard to say for certain. Certainly, I wouldn't pay money for him because the injury side of it and that.
Yeah.
But if we got him on a free, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
if he stayed injury free, it wouldn't surprise me if he scored 15 goals. But being injury free is another matter. And obviously, we're not Manchester United that can be almost relegated and still spend ridiculous money or whatever. So yeah, PSR. If he's on free and he does cheap enough wages, maybe that's time of his career that he will think along those lines. That not so much a retirement club, but just and yeah, if he stays injury free, brilliant. And I think we would have got a bargain for that. But he needs to be cheap. He needs to be free to do that.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Well, Sean, it has been a real pleasure. You're more than welcome to come on any shows you want here at Up the
Thanks.
Cherries in all departments. Absolute fantastic insight and always good to get that alternative opinion. That's what we like here. So yeah, please do come and join us again on these shows.
Yeah, up the cherries.
Thank you so much, Sean. And thank you everybody for watching. Hit the like, subscribe, the bell button below. It helps this channel to grow. Now do check out all of our other shows here on Up the Cherries in all departments. We've had lots of interviews with people from the world of music, the likes of David Icke, Professor Brian Cox, and a lot more. Also, do check out our Cherry AM show, which is ongoing daily during the summer and beyond as well for all your Cherries news. Again, thank you everybody for joining us. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, hit the bell button. We shall see you in the next one.
The TalkSport Fan Network.
The ultimate on-demand destination for the UK's best fan-led football podcasts.
Want authentic supporter insight on all things Bournemouth? Follow Up the Cherries in all departments on the TalkSport Fan Network.
Club-dedicated content created by the fans, for the fans.
Search TalkSport Fan Network.